Hello, my name is John Kenyon, and I am Executive Director of the Iowa City UNESCO City of Literature organization. I would like to welcome you to this special online presentation of our Write Out Loud program, held as part of the 10th annual One Book, Two Book Children's Literature Festival. While we cannot gather together in person as we usually do, we can still gather virtually to do something important: celebrate the excellent writing of our community's best young authors. As usual, we asked students in grades 1 through 8 from throughout the Iowa City-Cedar Rapids corridor to submit one page of original writing. It could be a story, an essay, a poem, an illustrated story, or just about anything they can imagine. Despite less than ideal circumstances this year, many students answered the call. Our partners with ACT here in Iowa City evaluated these pieces and selected grade level winners in two categories. The first is the right stuff, which is judged based on language, clarity, structure, and emotional impact. The second is from the heart, which is judged based on creativity, passion, and expressiveness. In addition, they identified other top students who will receive honorable mention recognition. We're going to hear from those students in just a moment. But first, I would like to take a moment to thank the sponsors and partners who made this possible: the Community Foundation of Johnson County, ACT, U.S. Bank, Iowa Public Radio, Green State Credit Union, Prairie Lights Books, Sidekick Books, The Haunted Bookshop, the Iowa City Downtown District, the Iowa City Coralville and North Liberty Libraries, the Iowa City Community School District, and the many other schools and districts that helped to spread the word about this writing opportunity for their students. Special thanks goes to the team from ACT that read and evaluated the submissions we received this year. John Melby Aitken led this year's team, and I would like to especially thank John for taking on this role. Now, let's hear from our young authors.
The Right Stuff winner for the first grade is Dustin Wynn from Borlaug Elementary. He will read his piece, Going to Adventureland.
Going to Adventureland. John was very excited because he was going to Adventureland. You cannot wear pajamas to Adventureland, said Smurf to John's sisters named Hazel and Dawn. Okay, said Hazel. John and Hazel went and got their clothes. John's family went to Adventureland. After he arrived, they came to his ticket seller. They bought 16 tickets. They saw a roller coaster. They wanted to go there. But there was a long line. Oh no! Well, let's go on the rest, said Dad. They came on the Teapot Water Slide. Each had to pay one ticket. They all did 3 rides and paid 12 tickets for the whole family. They had 4 tickets left, and the line at the roller coaster was empty. But they had to pay 2 tickets each. Uh-oh. So they had to do a maze to get 1 ticket each. They finished the maze and got a ticket. They got on the roller coaster. It was a fun day for Don's family. The end. Thank you for watching.
Our From the Heart winner for the first grade is Lake Spack from Mann Elementary, who will read his piece about puppies.
Puppies are cute. They like to sniff. They are fluffy and snuggly, and they like to eat meat. They like to go to the zoo, but they can't because they would eat the penguins.
Our The Right Stuff winner for the second grade is Sophia Wynn from Borlaug Elementary. She will read her piece, My Trip to Kent Park Beach.
After lunch, I went to Kent Park in a red car with my family, including Dad, Mom, Maggie, and Dustin. We packed some sunscreen, an umbrella to block the sun, some beach toys, and shovels to dig in the sand. We made drippy sandcastles that were so big to fall easily. After that, we got kind of bored. We wanted to bury one of us in the sand. We played rock, paper, scissors and picked Dustin. So we buried half of Dustin's body in the sand. We used our 3 shovels. 2 of them were purple and 1 of them was orange. We all laughed so hard. That was the first time Dustin was buried, and he felt so funny on his skin. Next, I also paddled a boat with Maggie. The paddles were very heavy, so Maggie had to paddle, not me. When we were in the middle of the lake, we were super hot. There was also dragonflies flying above me. They scared me. It's okay, they're beautiful, Maggie tried to calm me down. We became bored and wanted to get out of the lake to the sand. There was a hill with a bridge, and under there were some rocks. We were getting closer and closer, and Maggie tried to turn. There was a big rock, and our boat hit it because Maggie couldn't turn. Maggie told me to help her paddle. I was doing the opposite. I was just making the boat heavier. Then Maggie had to paddle the boat by herself. The paddles grew heavier and heavier on Maggie. We felt very happy when we finally made it to the shore. I wanted to have a contest to build the lake in the sand. Maggie was on my team and Dustin was on his own. I said the goals were that lakes have good design strength and could hold the most water. Our lake was very big and Dustin's was very small. We showed Mom and Dad our sand-made lakes and somehow Dustin won. You know, if he lost, he would get super mad. Now, we had to go home because it was almost time for dinner. On our way home, we stopped at an ice cream shop. Maggie and I ate vanilla ice cream cones. Dustin ate twisted ice cream cones. I learned that twisted ice cream cones is a mix of ice cream flavors. Chocolate on the left and vanilla on the right. Dad and Mom shared a cup of vanilla milkshake. What a fun afternoon! I love going to Kent Park Beach. Thank you for watching.
Our From the Heart winner for the second grade is Anaya Matthews from Wickham Elementary. She will read her piece, My Dream Life.
It all started in India when I heard my parents talking in the night about going to the United States. I tried to sleep that night. I couldn't wait to jump back into my parents' bed and get answers to 1,000 questions that popped into my head all through the night. But are you visiting the United States? Who all are going? Can I come? Can I come? Are we going to Disney World? Are we going to see the Statue of Liberty? I saw the surprise on my father's face as I blurted out 100 questions at him. He said, Anjana, we will talk about it later. Soon after overhearing more discussions, I realized that my family is moving to the USA, not visiting for vacation. Gradually, my excitement faded as I realized that I was leaving all my friends, cousins, uncles, and aunts. My father announced that we are moving next month. He seemed very excited and said he got his dream job. But what about me? My friends will miss me. And I guess I'll miss them too. I argued with my parents, but I got a sassy response. You can make new friends. How rude of him. Not fair. Just because he got his dream job doesn't mean that I have to suffer. How can he expect me to do that? I proposed a new deal. How about Amma and I stay here and you can keep your dream job? How about that? Then I noticed my mother's face beaming with pride, and the next destroying announcement came. Anjana, I want to go to school there. My head exploded. My face turned red. It felt like a volcano erupting. I said, what's the problem with an Indian school? Well, said Amma. Well, what? I said, I can't study much here. The American schools are more advanced. My face dropped. In a month, we moved to the USA. We settled in an amazing house that had a pool, a swing set, and best of all, a water slide. I was beginning to think this was an okay idea. After a few days, I saw my neighbors outside. They had a puppy named Hoppy. They even let me pet her, and she started hopping. Their kid Izzy said, she thinks you have treats. I think she likes you. Izzy asked if I could play with her. And my parents said yes. In a short time, we became friends. Soon we got to have play dates, the best part of American life, or so I thought. I got to eat my first pepperoni pizza in the first week of my new life. But my best discovery so far was the salted caramel ice cream. Wait, let's be honest. Deciding between mango pistachio ice cream and salted caramel is impossible. I got to visit my new school, where I would be starting second grade to drop off my supplies. The school building and classrooms looked very different from my old school in India. I was getting very nervous. I remember my heavy breaths and shaking legs as I was walking down the hallway when my dad took me to school on my first day. It was a hard day because everything worked differently than I expected. My teacher was very friendly, and it did not feel like she was teaching me very hard stuff. I loved the stories that she read to us. I loved the games that we played in class. I loved the show and tell times. I loved the star student part where I got to show my special Indian dancing. Now I know the best part of my new life is school. Every day I look forward to going to my class and being surrounded by my buddies. I love my new life. Just like Appa found his dream job, I found my dream life. The end.
Our The Right Stuff winner for the third grade is Abigail Chen from Wickham Elementary. She will read her piece, The Night.
The night. The night is filled with darkness and adventure. The bright moon shines with shadows of trees underneath. The night is silent and the wind is whispering secrets. The trees sway with it, creating a small sound. The moon is bright, illuminating a small squirrel's face. Dark clouds drifting around and uncovering the moon, uncovering and recovering. The squirrel scampers on out into the dark. Owls hoot, calling for mice, flying high above the trees. Flowers sway silently with the wind. Grass is flattened by the wind. The breeze is careful not to whisper too long, frequently stopping. The light is being covered by the dark clouds and only leaving the dark. The dark has nothing but stars to counter, and the moon's light reappears. Slowly, very slowly, the moon is drifting away, leaving the sun to illuminate the land. Yay!
Our From the Heart winner for the third grade is Leon Hussein from Coralville Central Elementary, who will read the piece, The Fall.
The fall. Boom! The house shook in fear just as the rattles came from my sister, who starts to shiver. A chill passes by. Then she starts to cry. I look at her tear-drowned face, tears seeping down her red cheeks. I held her hand in mine and squeezed. It's gonna be okay, Abby, I assure her. Abby sniffles and clings to my arm tighter. Get in the basement, I hear Dim shout. I lead Abby to the voice, though the repeating blaring sounds push us off our feet, and we start to hurry in a run. We nearly fall on our last step down the stairs. I finally realize who the voice was after my sister suddenly lets go of my hand and starts to huddle around Mom. I'm so glad you two made it. Mom kisses Abby on her forehead. You too, Mom. I hug her back. Suddenly we are interrupted by a huge crack and a flash of light. Abby starts to whine. I start to shake in fright. Mom explains to us that it's just lightning and there's a special kind of storm called a tornado outside. But that only makes Abby and I cluster tighter. I wipe away Abby's tears and smile at her. What if the whole house crashes down? Abby asks, clenching her silver horse with tight eyes. Abby always says that it's her good luck charm, and she will always cherish it because Grandpa gave it to her just before he passed away. Abby used to love his magic tricks and would simply laugh when he failed. Grandpa was an artist for clay creations, and we both used to adore aspiring to be just like him when we were little kids. He will always remember his kind, gentle blue eyes. But before Mom opens her mouth, we are interrupted by the sounds of a bird's loud crying. We all look up to the sight of Dad's drenched coat and rolled up sleeves. He had just made it from work. He always worked late, but his face showed terror as we all thought the same thing out loud. One word comes out of Dad's mouth. Mia. Mom mouths to him, no. Frozen with emotions, tears coming down her once calm state of thought. She knows what will happen, one way or the other. What would escalate would leave her in shreds of Ari. Dad is already gone in a blink of an eye. We heard the clumpy footsteps again, and our gaze rose tentatively. Dad made only 3 steps, precisely. Just 3. But then came the fall. We didn't even notice that tree beside our yard before it fell. It crashed down in an instant, and my father fell on the ground as his face filled with pigments of horror. As he looked upon each and every one of us, each with a distinct look that spoke to us. Assured, he let go. Not just of Mia, but for once in his life he finally fell. But knew for once that he didn't need to keep trying to take care of us and show us just as much as he loved us. We already knew every bit of it. With one last kiss upon the rigid stone of his grave, I knew completely that he loved us, just as much as he did on the ground as he does up in the sky. And I, too, simply let go.
Our The Right Stuff winner for the 4th grade is Olivia Rantanen from Willowwind School. She will read her piece, The Earth.
The earth. The owlet lets out a piercing cry of hoot. The night is surrounded by darkness. The crickets create a cheerful tune, and the glowing light of the moon illuminates the night. Hooting till day, the night time is a calming time. The darkness of the night is like a cloak. The owl dances gracefully in the air. The owlet takes a deep breath and takes a leap to the sky. Gliding like a ballerina, the owlet glides until day. The sun, a glowing ball of fire, illuminates the sky, tearing the cloak of night, surrounding the world with light. The night creatures disappear like water to the sun. At last, when the warmth seeps through and the deer come trampling on in, the eagle follows with a giant swoop, and the birds start with a hum. At last, the day is about to be wrapped up, and the night orchestra begins with a croak and a chirp. A soft hum from cicadas and crickets start the night with a calming song. The world falls asleep and darkness floods the world. The calming night and the mysterious light from the glowing pale moon. Pollen dances and gathers in the air. Graceful owls swoop through the dark evening sky. The smell of honey is showing that throughout the world birds come on over. The extremely busy bees fly swiftly through the air, carrying the sweet pollen. A crisp smell of apples fills the air, leaves dance and glide to the ground. A bear pounces and catches the playful fish. At last, when the air cools down and the cicadas chirp a cheerful song. The hooting owls hoot until day breaks through, when the snowflakes are dancing around and the air is dramatically colder. Snow continues to build up once more with a great flash in the snowstorm. The end of the season is coming to an end. But the year just starts once more. The end of the year will be a new start. Sun shines and thunder strikes, but all is still. Wind whips around like a lasso, and rain pours down. Snow builds in piles of flakes, and heat radiates. Hurricanes swirl with water, and tornadoes whip around with wind. Swirling winds and swishing water surround the world. That is our home, Earth.
Our From the Heart winner for the 4th grade is Ezra O'Connor from Lemmy Elementary. He will read the piece, Someone Like Me.
In school, among students, there's a model male 4th grade student, created by 4th grade students. Someone who likes sports and is tall and strong and only shows affection to sports. But no one is that. Yet so many boys my age are trying to sacrifice many things to become that. But they will never become it. Everyone is different. No one is normal. If you, like me, have long hair, you're considered a girl. And also among boys, why is being a girl an insult? What's wrong with people of the opposite gender? If you like science or math or science fiction, you're officially a nerd. You ask yourself, Why can't I pursue what I want to pursue? Why can't I be me? In school, you can't. You're forced to be judged harshly because you have thin arms or long hair or because you're not the model 4th grade boy. But no matter what you do, you will never become that. Trapped in this system that leaves almost every other boy like me out. They said that you need to be the model 4th grade student to be happy. But you don't. The fact is, trying to become the model 4th grade student only separates you from what makes you happy. While at one point you may be accepted, you may feel happy for a moment. Soon it fades, because you have left everything you loved behind. School is an endless cycle of madness, but we made these social norms. We can change our social norms for the better and make everyone feel included. No matter what you like, no matter what you look like, no matter what you like to do, because no one is the same. Everyone is different. And you're special in your great own way, no matter what you think or what other people think.
Our The Right Stuff winner for the 5th grade is Mirka Punikar from Coralville Central Elementary. She will read the piece, The Comeback.
The comeback. Why? How did I achieve this? Who made this magically happen? I knew the answers to all those questions. Me. I can't sleep. I just won the semi in the US Open. This is huge for me now that I'm in the finals. But could I? Do I have the courage to play her? I have to play her. The queen, Bianca Andreescu. She's my idol and I have to play her. How is this achievable? I closed my eyes and started to drift off to a slow sleep. Come on, Mirka, don't be so nervous. You can beat her. My coach had given me a pep talk before the game. It really helped, but then it didn't. I was still so nervous, and I had so many questions. I started to warm up my body. In about half an hour, I was called out. As I stepped off the elliptical, it felt as if my legs have turned into jelly. How did I get to do this? I whispered to myself. I took a few deep breaths and walked out to the court. Woo! The crowd cheered. Go, Mirka! There was a huge uproar in the bottom left corner of the stands. There were all my family and friends cheering at me. It felt as if I was floating. It was such a wonderful feeling until she came out, Bianca Andreescu. There was a much louder cheer in the crowds when she came out. How did she look so calm? I was already sweating and I hadn't even started to play. We both went to shake hands with the umpire and they chose a little girl to come take a picture with us. The umpire grabbed the coin and threw it into the air. I called heads, but it was tails. Return, Bianca said. Oh man, I really wanted to return. We both took a picture with the girl and set out to the court. Breathe, I told myself, and I took a deep breath. I bounced the ball 3 times, threw it into the air, and I hit the ball. She returned down the line to my backhand, but I knew I wouldn't mess up because my backhand is better than my forehand. Normally with people it's the opposite. I hit the ball cross court to her backhand and she returned to my forehand, but it was really close to the net. I ran as fast as I could. I hit the ball, but it went out. No, first point and I lost it. But I told myself, it's just 1 point. You can get more. But that didn't help. I lost the first game. Now it has her serve. And I have seen Bianca play many times, and her serve is really strong and powerful. Bianca bounced the ball 5 times on the ground, threw it up, and whack. She hit it so hard and placed it so well that it was an ace. What am I going to do? Wow. I literally lost the first set 6-1. I just won 1 measly game. I'm not tired at all, but I do need a break. My coach had come down to me and said, Mirka, you could have tried harder. I know, I said, but she's so good. Calm down, my coach said. You need to relax. I took a deep breath, but it didn't help. I took a few more, and then I started to calm down a bit. Once I got back onto the court, I was feeling pretty pumped up. It was her serve, but I felt pretty confident that I could return it. Once she threw the ball into the air, my stomach tightened. A big lump formed in my throat. I felt so nervous again. Why? I had lunged forward to attack the ball, but I swung too hard. The ball went out. I felt a bit sick, but not the sick where you throw up. The sick as in feeling too nervous. What in the world is happening? I thought to myself. Why am I losing so badly? The score was 0-5, her serve. I need to focus. I got to have a break because Bianca had a little injury on her ankle. Breathe, I told myself. It didn't help me. My coach came down and said, Mirka, who made it to the finals in the US Open? Me, I mumbled. Who made it this far? Me, I said around her. Who dreamed of winning this ever since you were a little girl? Me! Mirka, you have got this. You just need to believe in yourself and try as hard as you can. He's right. I have got this. I can do it. I just need to believe in myself. I sat out to the court and took a few deep breaths. I've got this, I whispered to myself. Bianca bounced the ball a couple of times, threw it into the air, and hit the ball. She hit it pretty hard, but I returned it flawlessly to the deep corner of her backhand. She hit the ball back, but she hit it too hard. It went out. Yes, I won a point and I didn't make any mistakes. And it kept going like that. I made it to 5-all. I also had found a new strategy. Hit consistently to Bianca's backhand. Her backhand is great, but it's the weakest of all her shots. She either hit out or in the net. I was making her tired too. I kept making her run, so she got tired. When we went out to take a short break, I saw that she was breathing heavily, but her coach was also giving her a big lecture on my weaknesses that he spotted. We sat out to the court again, and Bianca didn't look tired. In fact, she was the opposite of tired. It didn't ruin my game. I kept playing my style, but was hitting a lot harder now. The score was 6-all, which meant that we had to play a tiebreaker. I pushed and pushed myself to play until I had found it, her giant weak spot, deep backhand. I always tried to force the ball to the baseline on her backhand side. It got me through. I won the tiebreaker 7-6. I couldn't believe it. But the game wasn't over. I feel pretty good right now, but she doesn't. Bianca looks as fierce as a tiger. Okay, I think my shots are all really good right now, but I need to improve my mental game. Okay, for one thing, I know Bianca's weakest shot is her backhand, but her strongest is her forehand. Wait a minute. Hit to her forehand. I know that may sound crazy, but if she keeps messing up on her strength, she'll get frustrated and won't play as good. Got it. I sat out to the court and took a deep breath and whispered to myself, I can do it. Oh my gosh. She's playing really well. The score is 4-all. I kept making her mess up on her forehand, but she isn't getting frustrated. Wait a minute. That's it. Hit the ball short. I didn't want it to try it in most players coming up to the net because that means they'll finish the point. But if I can make Bianca to come to the net and hit a pretty good passing shot, there's no way she can return it. This is the moment of my entire life. I am so nervous. I can't believe it. There is no way I can do it. It is championship point for me. How can I do this? Most players always mess up on their match point. Wait, I have to believe in myself. I can do it. I will do it. I'm going to do it. A is my serve. I bounced the ball 5 times on the ground. I took a deep breath, tossed the ball into the air, hit it, not too hard though. It bounced to Bianca's backhand. She returned it down the line to my forehand. I hit it deep to her backhand, and she hit the ball out. I felt as if the world had stopped. I couldn't believe it. I won. I had won the US Open. I couldn't believe it. But how? Who did this magical thing? I knew the answer to that question. Me.
Our From the Heart winner for the 5th grade is Maggie Wynn from Borlaug Elementary. She will read the piece, A Magical Vacation.
A magical vacation. Last summer, my family went on a vacation like no other. It was magical. First, I went to the beach in Florida with my family, including my sister, Sophia, and brother, Dustin. During the ride, Sophia was carsick and Dustin was sleepy. My family planned to play at the beach. We unloaded our sand toys and other must-haves for a beach trip. I led my family to a shady spot on the beach while carrying a bag of sand toys. During the walk to the shady spot, I spotted a crab that was shockingly wearing a tuxedo. Ouch, I whimpered. I lowered and took a closer look at the crab. To my astonishment, the crab could speak. He told me that he was the host of a magical event, a dancing show of animals and creatures that humans thought were extinct or imaginary. I asked him about the venue and time of the magical event. I couldn't believe what just happened. I pinched myself. I told Mommy and Dad what just happened and asked them if I was seeing things. They looked just as confused. Sophia was awestruck by what I told her about the crab, and Dawson thought I was lying. I asked Dad, and he said that the event was probably a scam, but encouraged me to attend it anyway. I asked Mr. Crab, which I now called him, what we needed to prepare for the event. He told me to just follow him, so my family and I followed Mr. Crab. We walked and told me and arrived at a gift shop. I opened the door. Mr. Crab urged us to look for misty liquid. I noticed next to a chair that there was a glass of misty liquid. My family rushed over, followed by Mr. Crab. When Mr. Crab arrived, he instructed each of us to take a sip of the liquid. Dad took the first sip and he disappeared. Where did he go? I exclaimed. Mr. Crab must have seen disappearance like this because he looked so calm. He told me that my dad had just arrived at the magical event. So I asked Mom if I could drink the liquid. She looked frightened, but she nodded anyway. I took a sip and became so dizzy. The next thing I knew, I was above the clouds, joining Dad. Sophia and Dustin soon appeared, and so did Mom. There stood a rainbow slide. Sophia and Dustin and I started playing on it. We suddenly saw unicorns flying by. Dad and Mom looked shocked. I then dragged Mom and Dad to a room that had a sign that read dinosaurs. We went into the room. There were all kinds of dinosaurs, even a few T-Rexes. They were so tall I couldn't see their heads. We went into our other rooms with mermaids, doody birds, and even a rat the size of a bull. That was terrifying. At the end of the day, there was an animal parade. Animals wearing laser lights went out into the dark.
Looking at the shapes, we guessed the animals and wrote them on a piece of paper. Sophia, Dustin, and I compared the notes on the animals. Dustin missed a few of them. We each got to pick a gift from the gift shop. I got a backpack that read, with a sticker that read, Magical Animals. Wake up, shouted Mom. We arrived! I opened my eyes. It was all a dream? I grabbed some items and walked over to a shady spot. I accidentally stepped on a crab, wearing a tuxedo. The crab said he was the host of a magical event. I rubbed my eyes. The end. Thank you so much for watching.
Our The Right Stuff winner for the 6th grade is Leon Shea from Wickham Elementary. He will read the piece, A Look Back.
January 26, 2558. When we look back on 2020, we see something different from years like 1776 or 1879. Not a brave stand against oppression or a brilliant invention that quite literally made our future brighter, but a terrible sickness that ravaged the entire world. It made everyone stay inside and have no contact with anyone else. It would have been terrible to live in this time. We must consider the people that work tirelessly, 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, to create the vaccine that we have now to eliminate any threat of COVID-19 from rising once again. Though the technology they used was nowhere near the complexity of what we have today, they were still able to save the world with what they had. These people were prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice to save humanity or die trying. They knew that it would be dangerous, yet they still worked on, undeterred by the seemingly insurmountable threat of COVID-19. The heroes that we hear about in our history books are the stuff of legend, and rightfully so, as they were truly thinking about the greater good. We remember March 17th as COVID Memorial Day. The official name is COVID-19 Hero Remembrance Day, but most people use the informal designation. The mRNA vaccine breakthrough that paved the way for the COVID-19 vaccine was used to create the Disease Prevention Library containing the vaccines for all known sicknesses. Many technological advances have been made as well. VR technology was perfected in 2235, so meeting with people has become easier. With the power to meet anyone anytime, making advances in biology and technology made creating the Disease Prevention Library easier, and it was finished near 2340. The 100 years between 2400 and 2500 were used to patch up conflicts between countries, and 2500 to 2550 was complete and total peacetime. Currently, we are finishing up terraforming Pluto and preparing to make a massive step for the advancement of mankind. The solar engine is almost complete, and we are ready to move out of our own solar system. Exploring the galaxy will be tough, but it is a necessary step if we are to satisfy our own goals of finding extraterrestrial life. We are preparing for the broadcast that signals the test firing of the solar engine because it will happen in a few days. The protective shielding is almost finished, and luckily we were able to snag some fifth row seat tickets before their price skyrocketed to $100,000. Since 2020, many precautions have been taken to ensure that no pandemic or catastrophe, no matter how severe, can be neutralized with a call to action from the push of a button. These 538 years have been used well to make certain that humanity will succeed. For those that are reading this in the far past or distant future, though a goal may seem insurmountable, given enough time, it will become possible without you even realizing it.
Our From the Heart winner for the 6th grade is Adelaide Capps from Mann Elementary. She will read the piece, Birds.
When I was little, my family and I would play a game called Non-Stop, where we ran around the yard without stopping. It was just a way of getting me and my brother tired out, but despite that, I enjoyed it. We would run around the yard racing each other, or just racing ourselves. We flew, soaring away above the earth, where we would rest in the clouds, telling each other stories of birds. All kinds of birds, made-up birds, real birds, wherever our imaginations took us. Stories of birds flying, soaring up above the clouds just like us. Sometimes we wished we could be birds, too. But one day my brother had an accident. He fell out of the clouds. I watched helplessly as he tumbled out of the clouds to the ground. He landed in a bush in our backyard. We didn't know if he was okay because he was unconscious. It looked like just a broken leg, but we didn't know for sure. My parents called an ambulance, and when they came, my dad went with my brother in it. As soon as the ambulance left, my mom started yelling at me. How all of this was my fault, how we didn't know if he was going to be okay. how she couldn't believe that I would do this sort of thing. Then she started crying. We sat there for hours and hours until my dad arrived back home with good news. My brother was going to be okay, but he would have to stay in the hospital for a couple days. Relief flooded over me, and I hugged my parents. How I wish that he would have been more careful and not fallen out of the clouds. 4 years later, I am thinking about the accident. I go to my brother's room and ask him if he would like to fly in the clouds with me. We haven't done that in years, but he says yes. We head outside together and race around the yard. Lifting up our feet from the ground, we fly up above the trees, and it seems like we are above the sky itself. We settle in the clouds, and I ask him if he would like to build a cloud house. I'm afraid it will seem too kiddie for him, but again, he says yes. We pick up the fluff in our hands, and it is soft, softer than I remember. As we stack little cloud bricks on top of one another, I am reminded of the day of the accident when we were doing the same thing, laughing and playing. Now, we are just silent. I have an idea. I tell my brother to grab another big cloud, and he does. I start tearing off chunks of it and throwing it down to the backyard. When I am finished, I tug my brother's sleeve, and he seems to understand my message without me having to speak to him. We count to 3, jump off, and fly through the clouds. Soaring through the sky, I am reminded of the time when we used to play in the clouds every day. As we are flying, my brother tells the story of the most beautiful bird ever to live. She was all of the colors of the rainbow and more. She doesn't just fly, she loops, zigzags, and flies up and down. We are almost there now. We land in the soft pile of clouds and stare up at the sky, laughing. I wish we still had the days that were carefree, giggling all the time. But now we've moved on, and we have to deal with it ourselves.
Our The Right Stuff winner for the 7th grade is Maxwell Brown from Southeast Junior High. He will read his piece about a kayaking trip.
It's nice out here, isn't it? I said. I looked around at the scenery as we paddled down the river in our kayak. The sun was bright, the nature was green, and the water was sparkly clean. A perfect day. It is, isn't it, Evan? Said my brother Tim in the seat behind me. And to think we could have missed this for that boring safety talk. Since staying here at our grandparents' log cabin for the summer, we've been forced to attend a lecture on wilderness safety. Don't eat random berries, don't start a forest fire, yada yada, stuff like that. The worst part is, Grandpa Marty is making me and Tim do this every week. Yeah, I said, but I still feel bad about sneaking off like this. Doesn't it seem a bit ironic that we're sneaking away from a talk about safety to do something that's clearly unsafe? What's unsafe about it? We've been paddling on boats since we could talk. Grandma and Grandpa just don't trust us because we're kids. That's ageism, you know. It's a real word, look it up. I still wasn't convinced, but then I noticed something. Hey, Tim, does this path look familiar to you? No, not really. Why? He kept paddling until he fully grasped what I said. Wait, where are we? We both spun around in our seats to look at our surroundings. It didn't look like the path home. The shape of the river, the trees surrounding it, none of it was right. Oh, shoot, we made a wrong turn back there, I said. Okay, it's fine. Let's just turn back. As soon as I said these words, it seemed as if the river itself began to shake. Oh, that's not good, I said as I began to panic. Stay calm, dude, Tim said. We'll just head to shore. He began to paddle towards land, and I followed suit. But the river had its own plans. The current became stronger and stronger, taking us faster and faster down the river. And then something even more troubling came towards us. Rocks! I shouted. Watch out! There was no way to steer anymore, so in an act of desperation, I struck my oar out to push us away from it. It worked, but not before the oar snapped in half. And then I realized the worst. Tim, do you hear that? What we heard was the sound of gushing water, or more precisely, a waterfall. You know, in most movies, the heroes are always saved at the last second. Well, I'm sorry to inform you, reader, but that is not how my story is told. When we went over, I felt weightless, like I was in an empty void, with nothing but me and the air around me. It was almost relaxing. That is how my life ended, but this is not the end of the story. This is merely the beginning.
Our From the Heart winner for the 7th grade is Sienna Brown from Southeast Junior High. She will read her story about a young girl working hard to afford school.
A girl's journey to school. My hands flew back and forth, sewing the same few stitches over and over again. I wanted to close my eyes and rest, let the whole world drip away like water into a puddle. But I kept doing the same few stitches over and over again, because I knew the boss would fire me if I stopped. Monica kicked my leg, but I did not let my eyes drift from the cloth. "Yo, Kiva, your stitching is wrong," Monica said. I looked closer and realized she was right. I had been doing it wrong all along. I looked down the assembly line and prayed no one would notice. I looked up at Monica. Her wild black hair was tied into 2 ponytails with 2 pieces of pink string. I had always found it strange because the pink string and ponytails did not match the rest of her. She wore a leather jacket tied around her waist and an old ripped t-shirt. Some people thought it was a style, but really it was the only clothes she had. The goblin, my boss, sulked in the shadows, glaring at all of us as if we were there to kill him and not to work for him. He looked at the clock and began to yell, "Work is over! Get out! Move it!" I stood up, but my leg cramped and suddenly I dropped back into my chair. After sitting for so long, my leg had fallen asleep and hurt to move. "You okay, Kivana?" Monica asked. I shrugged. Monica shook her head. "You are the quietest little thing ever. Here, I'll help you home." She slid under the cold metal table to my side. She grabbed my arm and helped me stand up. We went to collect our money before we left the factory. I limped home, leaning on Monica. Finally, we reached the trailer park, where Monica left me at the door. "Quietest little thing," she mumbled as she walked to her own trailer, kicking up dust. I looked at the money in my hand. $5. I stuck one in my pocket and winced. Mama and Papa needed that money. But then I remember school started in 2 weeks, and if I wanted to go, I had to do this. I pushed myself up and limped into the trailer. Mama was bustling around the trailer in a huff with baby Nina on her waist. Mama looked exactly like me, short, with a slender figure and long dark hair that enveloped her like a blanket. I slipped past her into the long room I shared with my older sister, Sabrine. I reached underneath my bed and grabbed the old worn box. At some point, it was from a Jack-in-the-Box toy, but now only the box with its faded colors remained. I pulled out the flyer that read the list of materials that I needed to go to school. I looked at the money I had saved. The money wasn't going to get me into school. The door closed with a bang. Sabrine and Papa were home. I limped to the living room where Sabrine was picking up baby Nina and Papa was hanging up his coat. "How much did we make today?" We all gathered around the table. Sabrine put $1.50 on the table. Papa, $4, and I put my $4 on the table. Papa mumbled to himself as he counted the money. "Well, that makes $9.50. Well, okay, we can make it work." The next day at the factory, I kept to myself, not letting my eyes drift from the cloth. Late in the day, Monica leaned towards me slightly. "Some of the workers are striking tomorrow. Will you?" Monica whispered. I thought of Papa's face at the table every night, sad and worn out like paper stretched too thin. I thought of school. I was so close. I could not stop now. I shook my head, and Monica sighed. "Thought you were quiet, not stupid." She did not talk to me again. At home, I hid my $1 and gave the rest to the family. I thought of what Monica had said. Was it stupid not to strike? My family's income would suffer. I wouldn't be able to go to school. No, it wasn't stupid. I asked myself this over and over again. By morning, I had made my decision. Sabrine shook me awake. "Kivana, you have to get to work." I shook my head. "I'm not going. There's a strike, and I'm not going," I said, repeating myself. Sabrine shook her head. "Mama won't like that." I shrugged and pulled my knees closer to myself, glancing up at Sabrine. Sabrine stared at me before smiling slightly and leaving. A few days later, I awakened to see Monica standing by Sabrine's bed. She just stared there. I looked at her. Her eyes were black, darker than a raven's feather. I had never asked her age, but she was at least 2 years older than me. Boss gave us a pay raise. It's not much, but all the workers are coming home. Look, I know you want to go to school. Your mom told me. Apparently you're not great at hiding it, she said. I looked up at her. Mama knew? For how long? You work hard, and you deserve to go to school. She handed me $20, the rest of the money I needed to go to school. I shook my head. It's yours, I whispered. She shook her head and smiled. Now it's yours, geez. You know you're never going to make any friends at school if you stay this stubborn and quiet. Take it. I took the money from Monica. She smiled. One of those smiles you only see in quiet moments. Happy, but not giddy. Monica got up and left. I stared at the money. I was really going to school. I really was. I smiled, thinking that not all angels have halos. Some have pink strings in their hair.
Our The Right Stuff winner for the 8th grade is Luis Holanda Solano from Scattergood Friends. He will read his piece, Undercooked.
The cold night air lashed through an open window as the intermittent sound of an unknown rodent scurrying echoed ever so softly through the black marble room. Pots and pans scattered endlessly through the grimy countertops and damp dish rags slapped gently on tiled walls to the rhythm of the chilling breeze. Suddenly, a large hand reached out from the darkness and yanked the metal pull rope used to activate the room's ceiling light. It took a couple tugs, but eventually, bright beams shot off the glass dome to dispel the shroud. The tired eyes of a tall, green-skinned orcish man slowly analyzed the room as he reached out and grabbed his cleanest potato ricer. It took a few seconds of examination, but he spotted it, his favorite apron. He dashed over and grabbed the white cloth, holding it mere inches from his face. He carefully read the embroidered letters as he had many times before. To the greatest chef in the world and my favorite grandson, Finn Lausman, from Oma. He smiled softly at the familiarity of his Oma's sweet words, even if they were forever ingrained in a filthy food-stained drape. Every time Finn read his apron, it tickled his heart with joy. At that moment, he knew whatever happened today wouldn't matter anymore. It was guaranteed to be a good day now. He quickly put on his apron and laid the potato ricer in a perpendicular line to a fishnet sack of skinless potatoes. He grabbed a heavy cast-iron pot from the rusted sink and filled it with a vast ocean of viscous store-brand vegetable oil. He swiftly seized a handful of spuds from the sack and made quick work of them with his trusty potato ricer, squelching them into a sufficient mound of tuber mash. Finn's mind was completely engulfed in his cooking. Everything around him was swallowed by an imaginary darkness, only leaving the tools and ingredients necessary for his almost favorite dish, the ringer klobi. He was so absorbed in his cooking that he only barely realized the abrupt knocking on a splintered oakwood door. His bright smile wavered slightly before he let out a frustrated sigh through his clenched teeth. What Schleckelspeth is knocking at my door at this hour? Do people have any concept of time in this town? Finn amused himself with the thought of whoever was at the door being a Schleckelspecht, a German insult describing an alcoholic. But he knew for a fact that it was another corporate crony here to give him his usual scolding about his inefficacious business plans and depleting economic positivity. Finn swore that those words were made up, simply created to scare him into a complacent state. But under his jokes and playful ignorance, he was worried. Very worried. This was his only semi-reliable source of income, and he was scared he would lose it to whatever tax-hungry business fat cat kept sending these prioritarian collectors, as they're called. How would he support himself and his Oma under the circumstance that he could end up losing his business? Would he have other options? These thoughts perpetuated in his head, causing large beads of sweat to start formulating on his forehead. The heavy knocking rang out again, this time with a subtle hint of impatience embedded within every bang made on the door. Finn took a deep breath and made a begrudging effort to open up the entrance to his home. Behind it stood a stumpy man who was currently wearing a frown on his tired, dumpy face. He sported a cobra black suit in combination with a blue tie splattered with white polka dots, which then sat atop a spotless white undershirt. His hair was a coffee brown and styled in a very professionally done center part. His eyes were temporarily transfixed to his gold plate watch and his feet tapped on the porch floor in annoyance. He seemed to be in a hurry for something. When he realized that Finn had finally answered the door, he quickly wiped away the nasty scowl from his face and replaced it with a regular salesman's smile. "Hello, Mr. Lasman. My name is Jonah Wilson. How are you doing on this fine morning?"
Our From the Heart winner for the 8th grade is Claire Francois from North Central Junior High. This is her winning poem. Humanity is so rich in its history, with so many things left unknown. While some may wallow in self-misery, others want to overturn every stone. It is a garden rich in diversity, a certain beauty identified by few. Some may be gifted with generosity, but many people's vicious views are askew. Some wait for an apocalypse to end all life. Others look for an insignia of hope and light. Many will place caveats among our futures with strife. Show us a future that we won't be able to write. So be curious, be strong, and blaze your own trail, for they who write their own stories will always prevail. In addition to our grade level winners, our judges with ACT selected a handful of honorable mention students to be recognized. They are 2nd graders Nate Swertney of Weber Elementary and Anaya Ali from Wickham Elementary, 3rd grader Amara Pfeiffer from Wickham Elementary, 4th grader Cora Beeland from Coraville Central Elementary, 5th grader Anaya Patil from Penn Elementary, 6th graders Hattie Galloway from Hoover Elementary and Ben Haynes from Lincoln Elementary, 7th grader Caitlin Wu from Clear Creek Amana Middle School, and 8th grader Honora Klauke from Southeast Junior High. Our congratulations to all of our student writers who were recognized today, and thank you to all who submitted to One Book, Two Book this year.